and a city where everyone rushes to earn more, one young woman quietly chooses to give. Her story begins not with fame or fortune, but with a simple act of kindness. She takes her tuition money, meant for her own future, and gives it to strangers who have nothing. What she doesn't know is that someone powerful is watching, a man whose life is about to change forever. This is the story of compassion, consequence, and an unexpected connection between two worlds. The city never really sleeps. Cars move like veins of light through crowded streets. People hurry with coffee cups and deadlines. And somewhere in between all that movement, the forgotten ones fade into the background. The homeless, the unseen, the silent. They live under bridges, behind shops, in the corners where no one looks. For most, they are invisible. But for Aisha, a 22-year-old university student, they are impossible to ignore. She comes from a modest home. Her parents run a small grocery store in a quiet part of town. They don't have much, but they always share. Aisha grew up watching her mother give away bread to strangers, even when the shelves at home were half empty. Her father always said, "Kindness doesn't reduce what you have, it multiplies it." Those words stayed with her. She studies economics, dreams of becoming a teacher, and works part-time at a bookstore to cover her tuition. Every coin she earns, she saves. Every month, she counts her money twice, once to see if she can pay for her education, and once to check how much is left for her parents' needs. It's never enough, but she never complains. One cold evening, as she walks home from her part-time shift, she passes under a bridge. It's darker than usual. She notices a few people gathered near the corner: old men, a woman wrapped in torn cloth, and a small boy holding a cracked plastic bottle. They are trying to light a small fire with wet cardboard. The wind is sharp, cutting through their thin clothes. Aisha stops for a moment. She wants to help, but all she has is the envelope in her bag, her tuition money for the semester. She hesitates, then turns and walks away, telling herself someone else will help them. But that night, sleep doesn't come. The image of the boy trying to warm his hands on dying flames won't leave her mind. She sits up, looks at the envelope again, and feels the weight of a decision that shouldn't be so hard, her future or their survival. The lamp beside her flickers as she whispers to herself, "Maybe this is what I was meant to do." The next morning, she walks back to the same bridge, clutching the envelope tightly. She finds an older woman there, Parveen, who runs a small food charity for the homeless. Aisha hands her the envelope and says softly, "Please use this to buy food and blankets." Parveen looks stunned. She knows Aisha from the nearby bookstore. "But child," she says, "this is your tuition money." Aisha smiles gently. Books can wait. Hunger can't. There's no audience, no cameras, no social media post. Just a quiet act of compassion in a noisy world. A few blocks away, a black car slows at a traffic light. Inside sits Rayan Malik, 34 years old, Chief Executive Officer of Malik Retail, one of the city's largest companies. Rayan's life is structured, fast, and demanding. Every minute is scheduled, every decision calculated. Success is his language, efficiency his religion, but lately, even with all his wealth and power, something inside him feels empty. That morning, his driver takes a shortcut to avoid the jammed main road. As they pass under the bridge, Rayan notices a young woman handing something to a group of homeless people. He watches her, no camera, no crowd, no performance, just quiet sincerity. For a brief moment, their eyes meet and then his car drives away. But something about that moment stays with him. The calm on her face, the way she stood in the cold, the selflessness he hadn't seen in years. At work, he tries to focus, but the image keeps returning. He finds himself wondering who she is, why she did it. In his world, charity usually comes with press releases and photo opportunities. But what he saw was different. It was genuine. He asks his assistant to look into the local charities near that area. By evening, he learns about Parveen's volunteer kitchen, a small operation feeding homeless families near the bridge. The report also mentions a young university student who donated her tuition money. That night, for reasons he doesn't fully understand, Rayan can't sleep either. The next day, he decides to visit. No security team, no luxury car, just him. When he arrives, he sees the same girl again, Aisha, wearing a simple shawl, sleeves rolled up, helping distribute food. Her hands move quickly, her smile steady. The people around her seem to light up in her presence. Rayan watches from a distance. Something about the scene humbles him. He approaches Parveen, introducing himself quietly. "I saw what you do here," he says. "It's good work." Parveen, unaware of who he is, nods with gratitude. "We do what little we can," she replies. It's never enough. Rayan offers to help, anonymously. He writes a check to cover food supplies for the next few weeks and asks her not to mention his name. Then he leaves, but he can't help returning the next day, and the day after. Each visit, he watches Aisha working, sometimes carrying pots, sometimes sitting with a homeless child, teaching him how to read using torn paper. She doesn't seem to care about her appearance, her reputation, or even her lost tuition. She simply does what feels right. Slowly, Rayan begins to talk to her. Just small conversations at first, wait about the weather, about the food drive, about her studies. She never suspects he's a wealthy CEO. To her, he's just another volunteer with kind eyes. Rayan listens more than he speaks. For the first time in years, he's not calculating profits or growth. He's learning about struggle, resilience, and humility. Aisha tells him, "People think giving is about money. It's not. Sometimes it's about time, or attention, or just being kind when it's easier not to be." Her words strike him harder than any business lesson ever did. Weeks pass. Rayan becomes a regular at the charity. He buys supplies, helps distribute food, and talks to the homeless about their lives. He learns their names, their stories. An old man who lost his job. A woman who fled an abusive home. A child who dreams of going to school. Each story changes him, softening the walls he's built around himself. One evening, as they clean up after dinner service, Parveen recognizes him. She's seen his face in a newspaper. "You're Rayan Malik," she says, surprised. Aisha looks at him, confused. Rayan sighs. "Yes," he admits quietly. "I didn't want anyone to know." Parveen nods slowly, now understanding why their supplies have been so steady. "You could have just sent money," she says. "Why come yourself?" He looks at Aisha and replies, "Because she reminded me what real giving looks like." Aisha is silent. She feels betrayed for a moment, unsure if his kindness was genuine or just another project for a wealthy man seeking redemption. But then she remembers all those quiet mornings he spent carrying heavy boxes, listening to stories, sitting in the cold without complaint. That wasn't performance. It was change. Later that night, she finds him sitting near the bridge, watching the streetlights. She sits beside him and says softly, "You don't need to pretend. You're doing something good. That's what matters." He looks at her, surprised by her calmness. "I wasn't pretending," he says. "I just wanted to remember what being human feels like." From that day on, their bond grows deeper. They work side by side, organizing small initiatives, blankets for winter, free books for children, hygiene kits for the elderly. The project grows, not because of money, but because of sincerity. Aisha becomes a quiet leader. Rayan becomes her supporter, using his resources to amplify her vision, not replace it. Months later, Rayan's company launches a new program, not for publicity, but for purpose. It's called the Bridge Project, named after the place where he first saw her. The program provides free education and job training for the homeless community. Every participant is given a small stipend and, in return, must volunteer at least once a week, passing forward the kindness they received. Aisha refuses to take credit. When the press asks her to speak, she declines politely. "It's not my story," she says. "It belongs to everyone who chose to care." Rayan offers her a scholarship to complete her degree. She hesitates. "I can't take this," she says. "It feels wrong," he replies. "It's not charity, Aisha, it's a partnership. You inspired something bigger than both of us." Eventually, she accepts, with one condition. Every student supported by the scholarship must also volunteer in community service. Rayan agrees immediately. Together, they watch the idea spread. Within months, other companies follow their example. Food drives multiply. Shelters expand. People who once ignored the homeless begin to notice them. A ripple of empathy moves through the city. As time passes, Rayan and Aisha spend long evenings talking, not about wealth or success, but about purpose. He tells her how he used to measure everything in numbers: profit margins, growth rates, returns. Now, he measures differently: meals served, lives changed, hope restored. She tells him, "It's strange. I thought losing my tuition meant losing my future. But maybe it helped me find it instead." Rayan smiles. Sometimes we lose what we think we need, only to discover what we were meant to do. One evening, under the same bridge where it all began, Ray and I